Welcome back to the Pace Journal Review Show. I'm joined alongside by the man himself, Tymal Mills. We spoke about England versus India, the first test, and look towards the second test. Well, India have won that in dominating fashion by 317 runs. What a victory it was for them, and what a bounce back after losing the first test. Tymal, your thoughts on the second test? It was a quite convincing victory for India, winning it by such a big margin on the fourth day. What were your thoughts?
Welcome to the Pace Journal. Welcome to the Pace Journal.
Yeah, look, as obviously an England fan, it wasn't as good to watch as the first test, but it was really entertaining game, wasn't it? It was good viewing in terms of entertainment. There was obviously big turn from day one. There was a lot of people complaining about the pitch. To be fair, there wasn't a lot of, or if any, complaining coming out of the England camp. It was more on social media, people saying, test cricket, it shouldn't turn that much on day one. But you know, I'm of the opinion that if you're the home team, you should prepare whatever pitch you feel is going to give you the best chance to win. And obviously that was the case in this test match with it turning square. They obviously learned their lessons, I think, from the Indians from the first match in Chennai, where it was pretty flat those first couple of days, and then obviously reverse swing and a bit more turn came into it as the game came on and as the game went on. And that obviously played into the hands of the English. And this time they were like, "Nah, this pitch is going to turn immediately, and we're gonna dominate the game." Ravi Ashwin was outstanding, wasn't he? And Axar Patel, he missed the first game through injury, but he had a brilliant debut as well. So really good performance from India all around. Started off with Rohit Sharma, obviously, on day one, and they didn't look back from there.
Yeah, let's just go through the scorecard quickly. Obviously, Rohit Sharma getting 161. That was the innings to me that set up India for that big 329 score, which was more like 600 on that surface. And also 50s from Ajinkya Rahane and Rishabh Pant. The Pant one took the game away from England, I thought, towards the end. And then when England went out to bat, nobody except Ben Foakes, who we're going to touch on coming into this test match, really looked the part. He got 42. And in terms of the bowling, Ravi and Ashwin. Ashwin was fantastic in this game. 5 wickets for him. And then continuing up, we saw 50s from Virat Kohli, and then Ravi and Ashwin again getting a massive 100, which really then put the game away for India. So a lot to talk about in this one. In terms of, let's speak about Ravi and Ashwin first up. And even the spinners of both teams. But let's talk about Ashwin first. Talk to me about his contribution in this game.
Oh, it can't get much better, can it? Obviously, plenty of wickets in the game, but outstanding 100 in the second innings. Obviously, when the pitch was probably turning its biggest, he managed to score 100. Obviously, in his own home conditions, there was a lot spoken about. He's from Chennai, grew up there, played all his cricket there growing up. So he obviously knows the place very well. Would have batted out on that middle a lot of times, I would have thought. But he's obviously a world-class bowler. Didn't get any runs in the first innings, just going through the scorecard now. But straight away, opening the bowling in the second innings, 23 overs. Him and Axar Patel bowled for most of the England innings. He picked up 5 in the first dig. So he's just a high-class performer, isn't he? I think I saw he only trails Ian Botham now in terms of games where he has 5 wickets and 100. He overtook the likes of Gary Sobers, Jacques Kallis, some of the great all-rounders of the game. So it was also his first Test 100, not against the West Indies, not against your boys. So he's got 500s, and all 4 previously had come against the West Indies. So that was nice for him, I'm sure, just to get another one against another team. But he was world class. He was the main difference alongside Rohit Sharma in terms of this game. About 100 in the second innings, 148 balls, batting with the tail as well. Managing that, farming the strike, and playing his shots as well. So he always has been a world-class bowler, but you get him in those conditions and he's almost unplayable because he can spin the ball both ways. He's got the carom ball, he's got, he undercuts them, he puts overspin on them, he's got all the tricks. And on a pitch like they had in Chennai, he was pretty much unplayable.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard you mention the fact that you agree with the home advantage and you should prepare pitches for your team, best suited to your team. Do you think this game was won at the toss? Because let me just put some context here. Regardless of your answer, I think India do deserve credit. Obviously, they are playing at home, but they scored 615 runs in the test, and where England only scored 298 total. So they did bat well on the pitch, which was very tough to bat on, as we saw in the first innings. But would you say it was sort of a game decided at the toss when India won the toss and batted first, quite obviously?
A little bit. There's been a lot of chat about that. People saying, "Oh, yeah, win the toss, win the game," but it turned early. It turned on day one. It was I think Rohit Sharma was playing on a different pitch to everybody else in that first innings. You know, England were able to chip away kind of in and around him. Obviously, Rahane and then Rishabh Pant came in and played obviously very good innings also. But Rohit Sharma just made it look so different to anybody else. And I think that's the benefit of, you know, obviously being a home player on home tracks. You do come across it more often. English batters, they won't bat on pitches like that very often. So it is alien to them. Their game plans aren't as secure. They don't have the scoring options that they do on flatter wickets or on seaming wickets. So I think you have to give huge credit to Rohit Sharma because, as I said, it was turning a lot on day one. See, Stuart Broad and Ollie Stone, they had a quick blast with the new ball. Ollie Stone looked good in his only his second test, I believe. But then after that, there was a lot of bowling from Jack Leach and Mo and Ali that was turning, but made to look really average from the Indian batters. So the toss did play a big part of it. But I don't think if England would have batted first, they would have scored 3-2-9 as the Indians did.
Yeah, we have to give them credit. And obviously, you mentioned the spinners. 33 out of the 40 wickets in this match were all by spin. So only 7 wickets by the pacer. But before we even get into the analysis of the bowlers themselves, in terms of selection, Tymal, because we sat down, we thought after the last test that we would see Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad. England opting to rest Anderson probably for that third test, which we will talk about in our next episode. But opting to play an Ollie Stone, who was one of on the quicker side, and then Stuart Broad as well. And even dropping Dom Bess from the team, who probably was a little inconsistent in the first test. In terms of selection-wise, were you surprised from both teams' perspectives? Akshar Patel came in, got 5 wickets on debut. We saw Kuldeep Yadav. He didn't feature too much with the ball. Jasprit Bumrah was rested as well. So from that point of view, were you surprised with any selections that you saw from both teams?
A little bit. I was made to look a little bit silly at the end of the last show. I said, "Yeah, stay with the same team," and then they made five changes, I think. But England they're being very stringent with their plans in terms of resting guys, giving guys time off. So they've just come from Sri Lanka. They've played 2 tests there in a bubble. They had to quarantine on arrival in India. So they've taken a big squad out there with them. They're letting guys go back home. Obviously, Jofra Archer's had a slight elbow injury. They're saying it's not the same. He had a stress fracture in his elbow last winter. They're saying it's not related to that, but he had to have an injection. So obviously, he had to sit out this test. So I was surprised Jimmy Anderson didn't play, but I'm sure it was always part of the plan to rotate the squad. So they were left with Stuart Broad was always going to play, obviously being the senior bowler that was sat out the first game. And then they were left with the choice between Chris Woakes and Ollie Stone, and they made the right choice going for Stone with that extra pace. I feel if you had Woakes and Broad, that's 2 bowlers that are a little bit too similar in terms of pace. Ollie Stone does have that extra pace, pushing in and around 90 mile an hour. It was good to see him play. He's a guy I know well. We grew up in the same area back home, back in Norfolk. Both support the same football team. It's not an area known for bringing through cricketing talent. So it's nice to see Ollie get a game, and he did really well. We got a wicket with his 3rd ball. Getting Shubman Gill to shoulder arms, one ball that kind of just carried on into the right-handed batter. But yeah, he did really well. He bowled really straight. He obviously had a clear plan to attack the stumps, used the short ball, was used in short bursts, as we know. Obviously, a lot of the bowling, as you say, was spin bowling. So a lot of time stood around in the field, stood at square legs, stood down at maybe on the boundary somewhere. So it was a tough scenario to make only your second test appearance in. But I thought Ollie Stone did really well, and he outbowled Stuart Broad, which is no mean feat.
And also, Tymal, how as a fast bowler in these sort of conditions? I mean, you've been to India, you played for the Royal Challengers Bangalore, for example, but the conditions were way different to this. The pitch was way different. How, as a fast bowler in a test match, do you bowl, and what sort of mindset do you have thinking in a test match like this? First of all, going into it, well, looking at the surface, I'm not going to have a huge impact, but then still to have the impact that Ollie Stone did, where he took, I think it was 5 wickets. So, he still was able to extract something and still bowl well and challenge the batters. So how do you think as a fast bowler?
Yeah, it's tough. It does all come down to mindset at the end of the day, and applying yourself, identifying really what your role is, when those key moments are in the game. I remember going on an England A tour, a 4-day tour to Sri Lanka where we play 3 4-day games, and it's a similar situation. You're not going to be bowling all day. You're not going to be bowling long spells with the ball swinging and seaming around. So you know that when you need to step up, it's really on you to deliver. Whether you've got that brand new ball in your hand, when it might do a little bit, might swing, might seam, you might get something. Or if it's coming later on in the innings and reverse swings the key, or if the 2 batsmen are set and you need to bowl 3 overs, really as fast as you can with some short stuff, be strategic with your fields. It's really important that you switch on. It's tough, as you say. There's going to be long periods when you're just stood in the field. Ball might not have come to you for a while. You stood at mid-off, you stood at deep square leg. It's easy to drift. It's easy to not be ready, but as soon as the captain throws you the ball, you've got to be on it, because if you bowl 2 or 3 errant balls and you get hit for a couple of boundaries, you're getting taken out of the attack, because the captain will more likely just go back to his spinners and try and get the control back. So it's a tough role being a fast bowler in a 2-man paced attack. There's pressure on you to perform, because, as you say, you haven't got the reserves. It's not like you're playing on a green seamer when you've got 4 fast bowlers playing, and if one person's having a bad day, you've got other guys to pick up the slack. So it's tough, and it's all about mindset, and it's all about being ready and staying in the game, even believing you're in the game. Sorry, even when you're probably not quite in it where you'd like to be.
Yeah, and in terms of the seamers, just to stop for you, the English seamers bowled 44.5 overs in the game, and India seamers only bowled 19 overs. So as a captain, and just a correction there, Ollie Stone actually only took 4 wickets, not 5. But as a captain, as Joe Root, for example, how sparingly do you use your pacers? What's the thinking behind the moments that you can? I thought personally, in the second innings, I would have liked to see Short Broad a bit earlier. He only bowled 9 overs, but when he did come on, he was bowling the leg cutter, for example, and I was getting the ball to beat the batsman. And I mean, we saw Ben Foakes keeping up to the stumps, which we're going to talk about Ben Foakes very soon. But in terms of Short Broad, do you think Joe could have maybe used him a bit more? And how do you think, as a captain, in terms of using your pacers on surfaces like these?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? First of all, 2 points. I think you're right when you said, I remember watching that spell where Stuart Broad, who was bowling that quick leg cutter, and it was essentially like a fast leg spinner, wasn't it? It was definitely moving off the pitch. You see the big puffs of dust when you'd hit a certain area on the track, and it was moving quite a lot, and the batsman didn't really have an answer to it. He's so good at that ball, as I've spoken about before. The amount of energy he's still able to get onto the ball whilst rolling his wrists down is really impressive. A lot of guys will bowl that as a slower ball and it'll just kind of fart out with nothing on it, but he's able to get that bite onto it. So it's a tricky balance how much you use them, and I think India obviously bowled less pace because of the quality of their spinners. When you've got Ravi Ashwin doing what he was doing from one end, you don't need to take him off. Whereas I put some credit to Axar Patel as well. He did really well. Obviously, the left arm spinner, he mixes up his pace. He can bowl it quickly into the surface and get turned as well. And then Kuldeep Yadav is obviously a genuine leg spinner as well, left arm leg spinner as well. So England don't quite have that quality of spin, so they go back to their pace a little bit more often. Whereas, as you say, India don't really have to change it. They can literally just park Ravi Ashwin at one end and just let him go about his work. Whereas England were a little bit looser with Leach, and Moeen Ali in particular took a little longer to get into his kind of spell, having had quite a long time out of Test match cricket. He was bowling obviously some loose balls in between some really nice ones as well.
Yeah, and he was obviously still able to get those 4 wickets in the Indian second innings as well. So he did come on to, and obviously with the bat in the 4th innings as well. But you make an interesting point about Axar Patel, and I want to tell all the viewers out there, all of our Pace Journal family, we're going to be focusing in our next show, which is previewing the 3rd test and obviously looking at the rest of the series. I want to focus definitely on England's weakness to the left arm spin, because we saw it in Sri Lanka with Denia, and now we're seeing it with Axar Patel. I thought he was leaps and bounds better than Shabaz Nadeem, who we saw in the 1st test, and I give him credit, on debut. Obviously, as you said, he's someone that plays in home conditions. But still to be able to bowl that well, I thought he was very consistent and disciplined. So look out for that, guys. In the next show, we're going to be talking a lot about the left arm spin to England, because that's obviously a big factor in this series. But just before we wrap up, Tymal, tell me, in terms of Ollie Stone, just let's focus on him for 1 minute. How impressed were you with his consistency, his discipline, his challenge to the batsman? You touched on him a bit earlier, but is this a possible? What he's done in this test? Is it now a possibility that he can play more often in this series going forward?
Yeah, it's difficult. He finds himself in a slightly similar situation to Ben Foakes, where he's kind of obviously a capable player. He's proven it, but at the back of quite a long queue of more than capable players ahead of him. Obviously, Broad, Anderson, Woakes, Archer, Wood. There's a lot. England have obviously blessed with a lot of talented pace bowlers, but like you said, he hasn't played very much Test cricket. He's had a lot of injury problems over the last few years, but he's got everything that an England team look for. He's got that natural pace. He's got that kind of good, tall, repeatable action, and he can move the ball as well. He's a decent bat, good fielder, so they obviously like him as a cricketer. And I was really impressed with how he was straight into it. There wasn't really any loose spells. He didn't look like he was feeling his way into the game at all. He had a clear role. I'm sure he would have spoken with Chris Silverwood, John Lewis, the head coach, bowling coach, and obviously Joe Root about what his role was going to be. So it's always nice to have clarity as a bowler when you know, kind of, you're told what you need to be doing, you're on board with it, you agree with it, and you go out there and that's all you're thinking about. You're not overcomplicating things by worrying about your wrist position, all those type of things. And when you're out in the middle, you're just out there, bowl straight, bowl fast, bowl at the body, and come in kind of short, sharp bursts and give your all. Hopefully, get some reverse swing. In which case, you need to pitch it up a little bit further to give the ball a bit more of a chance. But I think he gave a great account of himself. Be interesting to see how the squad goes moving forward. Mark Wood, he's back in the country now. I know, so he's doing his quarantine at the moment. We've got a little bit of a gap to the third test now, which is a day-nighter, which I'm sure we'll obviously talk about more later in the week when we preview that show. But it's going to be a different set of conditions at a new stadium as well. So I think Ollie Stone, he did probably as well as he could have done in all things considered. As I said, he definitely, I'm pretty sure he bowled more than Stuart Broad in the game. So that was nice. Joe Root obviously had confidence in throwing him the ball as well. So I think Ollie Stone can really hold his head high.
Just before we go to Mal, Ben Foakes, a name we've touched on a couple of times in the show so far. Now, let me just say my take on him. I think Ben Foakes may be just the best gloveman in world cricket. The guy is fantastic. First of all, standing up to the stump to short Broad, bowling at that pace. He wasn't bowling very slow, but yes, he was cutting the ball a lot and using different variations. But still, I think he stays down for so long. And I mean, really, for all the young kids out there, if you're wanting to be a wicketkeeper, I think Ben Foakes is the guy to watch. And then getting some runs, fighting runs of 42 not out in the first innings. How satisfying is it as an England fan? You lose someone like a Joss Butler, but you can replace him with Ben Foakes. He came to the Caribbean, I remember, didn't get much games, but now he's definitely making a case for himself to play in the future, and obviously will be for the rest of the series. So how impressed were you with Ben Foakes? First his wicket-keeping and then his batting?
Obviously, I haven't told you. I know Foakesy very well. We grew up on the academy. We were on the academy together at Essex. We came through the Essex system. We both ended up leaving Essex around the same time. I've played a lot of England lines with him. He was at my wedding just over a year ago, so he's one of my good mates. So I know Foakesy well, and he's always been the best keeper, definitely at his age group, and then often straight away above. He had to leave Essex, so James Foster, he played a bit for England. He's kind of regarded as probably the best wicketkeeper that England's ever produced. And unfortunately, when Foakesy was coming through at Essex, James Foster was the wicketkeeper, so he was never going to get a chance to play, even though he deserved it. He was just playing as a specialist batsman, so he had to leave, and he ended up going to Surrey, where he's now the number one keeper there. And anybody that's seen Foakesy keep in county cricket for however long has known how good he is. Obviously very good with the bat as well. But yeah, he really proved it. He was getting rave reviews, wasn't he, on Twitter? Social media was just, really pining over him about how well he kept, as you say, standing up to the spinners, some of those stumpings that he took, especially the one from Jack Leach, the one that went through the left armour, through the gate, down the leg side, and such sharp work. It was almost faultless. A couple of small errors here and there. There wasn't a single bye or leg bye in the whole of the first innings I saw as well. So considering how much, as you say, he's travelled with the England squad and not played, it's a credit to come straight in and put in a performance like that. And he's in the few performances he has given for England, he's shown what a capable player he is with bat, and obviously with the gloves. That he's only played, just pull up his stat, he's only played 6 tests, but he's averaging 41. So he obviously he's settled into his role nicely. He got 150 to go with his. I think he got 40 odd not out, didn't he, in England's first innings in this Test match. So yeah, he probably couldn't have gone better for Foakes, and I'm personally just really pleased for him. Obviously, a good mate of mine.
Well, guys, you've heard it. Obviously, India fighting back in a big way
Nikhil, let me stop you there, mate. Whilst we're on air, I'll go give you 2 minutes. Let's talk about your boys over in Bangladesh.
Sure, man. That's why not.
I know you've been staying up late watching that game. Give the people a little shout out to the boys, the Caribbean West Indies boys playing those Test matches out in Bangladesh for sure.
Yeah. So for a lot of people that are interested in this series may not know a lot about West Indies Bangladesh. So thank you, Tymal, for this opportunity. But I just think it was a fantastic performance. I mean, the last time the West Indies went to Bangladesh, they were beaten in 3 days twice with the main team. In this case, we've had a lot of inexperienced guys in the top four that this was their first series. And I thought the team rallied extremely well around the captain, Craig Brathwaite. We saw a double 100 by Tymal Mills. The whole world knows it now. And even other players that may not have been mentioned to that degree. But it was really a team performance we saw in all aspects. And I thought everyone in the team contributed in the series in some way. So in terms of West Indies cricket, I thought it was a very important series. And one thing that I thought was missing in West Indies cricket was the competition for places. And what this series did was reignite that fire and that flame in the West Indies. So for our first class system, it was great. And for West Indies cricket, it's even better because I think now we will see a lot more intense cricket because people know there are people banging down the door for their places. So a fantastic series. Credit to Craig Brathwaite, credit to the coaching staff led by Phil Simmons. I think I'm a firm believer that this is a turning point in West Indies cricket. And I think you'll definitely see an ascendancy of the West Indies cricket in very soon. So thank you, Tymal. It was a great series and happy to have all this world cricket to be able to speak about, man. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. And we'll be back later in the week. We're going to break down the IPL auction, which is happening at the back end of the week. So we're going to see what happens about that, see who's made themselves a lot of money, and we'll have a look at the teams, what guys get picked up. Obviously, one of the smaller auctions this year, not one of the mega super auctions that's been pushed back to next year. So we'll have a look at that, and then we'll look ahead to the next day-night Test match in Ahmedabad as well. So thanks again for everybody for listening, and we'll catch you later on in the week.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the Peace Judge. Welcome to the Peace Judge.